We released this video today as the 10th of October is World Mental Health Day. Here at Getaway Girls, we're always here to support you, and there's also lots of other support and resources available in Leeds.
Hi, and welcome to episode 7 of Getaway Girls TV. We will be talking about mental health today with the vocal girls.
So our first question is, what do you think of when someone says the term mental health? And for me, I think that your mental health is something that's always there. It's not something that should just be addressed or given help in a time of crisis. It's something you should constantly be looking after throughout your life. And I'm pleased that I feel like nowadays more and more support is available for that purpose. But I still do feel there is a long way to go.
When I think of mental health, I think about everybody having their own problems, like you say, and there's a lot of negative things that people instantly think of when they think of mental health, but there's also lots of good things that could happen too. Yeah.
I agree with Ella. I feel like a lot of us focus on the negatives, but there's a lot of positives. Like, you can have good mental health, like if you're happy within yourself and everything. So I feel like you shouldn't always focus on the negative side.
I think of like high school and how little that taught us about mental health, and how mental health can be the big main things that we all worry about, but it can be like the very little things in every day, because mental health is sort of every day and not just one labelled thing.
I'd actually agree with you, V. Like, to say it's something that everybody has in common, it's quite strange that it's not addressed in like school, the one place that most people attend. And yeah, I'd just echo what everyone else has said. Like, there is bad mental health, but there's also good mental health, and I feel like there should be more of a focus of understanding the difference and like what to do when it is good.
Well, when someone says mental health, I just think of, again, school, and reiterating what everyone said, but I also think of how it affects families and how people from different cultural backgrounds might see mental health as something different. And I think of how people react when they hear mental health, and I also think of people, how people enjoy when they're together and their mental health is like good and they're positive, and have everyone's happy, or when everyone's happy, they're all excited, and you talk about positive mental health and everything's just awesome.
I just agree with what everyone said. I think mental health is very common. I think it should be seen as like the same as like physical illnesses, and mental health illnesses should be taken like as serious as those illnesses, and that it should be spoken about more. Like, it shouldn't be a taboo topic, which I think conversations like this are really important. So yeah.
How do you think social media impacts people's mental health? Do you think the impact is different for young girls compared to young boys? For me, I think that it impacts people's mental health in both positive and negative ways, because sometimes it can show like body image and how young girls especially should look at themselves, and sometimes that can be really negative because it demands certain things, but I think sometimes it can be positive because there are lots of things now about how you should love yourself, and there are like pages online that you can go to support that, but also just staying in contact in general is a really important thing, and especially with the coronavirus around, it's really important to be able to talk to people.
I would say that social media has a good impact because people can connect with each other like all across the world, but sometimes they get so caught up that they don't really absorb real things, so it can shut them away from like the outside world.
Do you think social media is kind of like fake then?
Yeah, sometimes with how people post stuff, like big happy messages, and life's not always happy. That sounds really depressing, but I think it's not always honest what people put on social media, and it's not always true how people speak to each other on social media compared to real life. But it can have positives as well. Like, obviously, it's good entertainment, and it's communicating with each other.
So I definitely do agree with what B and Ella have said about how there is definitely pros and cons. And to be honest, I do think a lot of it falls to your own personal responsibility. You're in charge of who you're following online and what content you're engaging with. And it's difficult, and I know it is, like I have the same problem, but you have to be proactive about who you're following and whose content you're liking, because if you're seeing pages every day on your Instagram feed which are making you feel bad about yourself, it's not exactly going to be conducive to having good mental health. There is definitely a growing body positivity movement. Some aspects of it arguably slightly unhelpful, some better than others, but I do feel we are getting to a point where it's easier to find positive content online. And a lot on the note of whether or not social media is fake, I was reading the Florence Given book, Women Don't Owe You Pretty, a week or two ago, and I can't remember the exact quote, but she was basically saying that you shouldn't compare everyone else's highlight reel to what your everyday is, particularly not on a morning when you first wake up and check your phone and you feel awful and everyone else is like living their best life looking incredible on Instagram, because it's probably not real.
I think when you like focus on the second part of the question where it says, do you think the impact is different for young girls and boys? I feel like in a way it could be worse for boys, because I feel like when you think about the negatives of social media, you automatically look at like body image and stuff for girls, but then you don't really talk about anything for boys, which is like kind of like the whole toxic masculinity aspect of social media, because I feel like it's looked over. And when you look on like meme pages and stuff, it's all like boys just like man up and everything. Like when you're on Instagram, that is what you see, constant like memes and stuff. They're constantly just having to look past it. So I feel like it is in a way worse for them.
Well, I think again, agreeing with what you said, boys probably have it hard. They boys always have it hard. No matter what happens, they're always getting called names. No matter what happens, so do girls. But I think boys do have it really hard. But I also think social media is really positive, because if we look at it from a different perspective, not just young teenagers, from this perspective of being able to talk to family that you haven't met, but you know you have across the world, and getting to see other people's lives just from their point of view. Some of them might be fake, but there are people who are genuine out there. Like my grandma, she's like 81 and she's got on Facebook, and it's been the best time of my family's life. Because this is a thing that happened a while ago. I like recording my grandma getting scared, and she's suddenly posted it all to Facebook. And it's wonderful just getting to see all your family, connect through a social media platform, because not everyone has the option to fly to their family, see them constantly. Some people have work, some people just physically can't. Of course, with the global situation, it's so amazing that we have a way to contact people, people that we want to meet. And also we make tons of friends online. Obviously there are pros and cons to that, but the vast majority are pros. Like, we make so many friends online, we meet so many new people online, and you build connections online, which is awesome. And next to me is Martha.
Just to echo what everyone said, I think social media has got like its benefits and its downsides. And I think depending on how you use it, I think a lot of the time we need to sort of limit our screen time and only use it at certain points. Like, I think waking up and going straight onto Instagram probably isn't the best thing to do. But also I know there's a lot of Instagram pages that do encourage like body positivity images, that do promote healthy ways of living and healthy for your body, mind and everything. So I think it's how you consume social media and how you view it as well. Because I think some people will see in the light that everything on there is real, when in actual fact it's not. I don't know, I feel like I'm quite old now. If I was a young girl during these times, I think I would personally find it quite difficult, because there's just a lot of information out there. There's a lot to consume, and like school was hard enough. And never mind adding like social media. So as a young girl, I think it does impact differently to being a young boy, but at the same time I think it's difficult for both genders.
I do think, like you guys said, it is positive for the connection, but it's also scary, because I do think you can be over connected, kind of like what you were saying, Martha. And what are you guys' views on like these body positivity pages? Like, for me, I think it can be like a bit too much, because like you said, not everyone is happy all the time, and it does kind of give this whole facade that like if you're not happy all the time, like there's a problem, like you need to wake up and be happy. And for me, I just think that's too much.
How do you think Corona and lockdown has impacted people's mental health? So I think that it's been quite hard for a lot of people because they haven't been able to like go out and have that face-to-face interaction if they're struggling. Like, I personally find it a lot easier to talk to my friends and if I'm seeing them in person than starting a conversation over the phone, or it's a lot harder, I think. But also, I mean, that's the main thing, but I personally quite liked being at home with the school stuff, and that kind of helped me just occupy myself in a different way.
What did you like about staying at home with school? Like, why did you prefer it?
Because in school, teachers are constantly checking on your work and things, and at home, they just kind of see what you've done at the end, and there's no pressure until the last minute, which sounds a bit bad, but yeah, I liked it.
I think there was a pretty 50-50 split between young people. I think about half of us really thrived during lockdown, and the other half of us really, really struggled. And I think for some people, it will have really benefited if for them the school system and being in it meant they had to say see people who weren't particularly nice, or they couldn't really express themselves, or they might have not enjoyed having like a work system and being in school for those hours, and having that flexibility of being at home could have been really good for them. Similarly, I do think it gave people particularly who had exams cancelled, a lot of time to spend on hobbies and things which they usually wouldn't have had the time or energy even to be doing. However, I do think it will have negatively impacted a lot of people, making them isolated, particularly if they don't get along well with their family, or they're in a home situation which isn't really very conducive to being able to do work at home, or it's just not a happy home. And I also feel that online for a time period, there was a whole thing about people having like a quarantine glow up, and people like losing weight and changing their hair and looking so much better than they did when we went into quarantine. But realistically, we were all eating way more than usual, and no one was looking their best, which is fine, but it did feel as if social media had put a bit of a pressure on coming out the end of this looking better than you did when you went into it, which isn't really fair.
I agree. I feel like there was definitely 50-50. Like there was some negatives and some positives. But, like, I can only really speak for me, my friends I'm around like every day and our experiences. But I feel like for a lot of young people who were just in the school system, like your whole life, literally that's all you've done. You've never had like 6 months off to do your own thing. I feel like a lot of people, I'm gonna say like found yourself, but like it was like more like what are you doing rather than just going to school, like go to dance, go to like orchestra or something. It was more like it's like what do you want to do type thing. So I feel like for me it was an enjoyable experience in my opinion.
So personally, I think going back to Charlotte and Serena's point, yeah, there was a lot of thing of going into quarantine looking better, but it was mainly focused on girls. There were things on boys I'd seen, but it was mainly focused on girls, and there wasn't much emphasis for boys to do that. Maybe for boys it was 6 packs, but it wasn't that much for girls. It was a lot more legs, thighs, get everything done, and that wasn't great. Some people came out of it doing it. So some people did it and they felt amazing. Others, for others didn't work that well. But it went, for some people it was good, for some people it was bad. That's the thing to everything. There are always pros and cons. But I also think that for some people, lockdown was a really good thing for them. Like, personally, I thrived in lockdown. And I have a thing where I lose focus very quickly, especially in environments, and that's my thing from when I was very small. And being at home, being in a room that I'm really familiar with, and then everything's very distracting, but it's just I have that focus. But I've also had a lot more time to spend with my mum and my grandma because I'm waking up later and I'm staying up later. And I know people are saying that sleep schedules and stuff, but if you get into the routine, then I guess it's a new sleep schedule. Because then I was spending a lot more time with my mum. I was doing my work with her. She was doing her work with me. We were working on projects together. And I think for some people, it was great to spend time with their family. But I understand the other side where it was really hard to be at home, especially with people with multiple siblings, younger siblings doing online school. and being afraid, you know, there's tons of deadlines and stuff. So again, I do think it's a 50-50 with positive. Everyone handles everything different, because I think everyone got kind of thrown into the same thing, but it was how people reacted that kind of split was it positive or was it negative.
No, I agree with. I feel like it would have affected people who like had to take up more responsibilities when they're at home. So a lot of like, guess young girls would have to take up more like house chores compared to like young boys, and just I guess having like that time away from like your friends, and just maybe just being quite lonely. Like if you don't have any siblings, or like you don't get on with like your parents or carers, I think that might have been quite a difficult challenge for people. Just to have like 3 months of nothing. But at the same time, like you've all said, it can be a really nice time to do something creative, to find out what you like are passionate about, to just go for like runs or just to go for walks. Like it was nice weather, like it was time for you to do things that you just didn't have time to do before.
Yeah, I think like, well, for me, like quarantine was good at first, but then like when I went back to like normal society, like it felt like very chaotic. So I don't know if it had a great effect on people like overall, but I think it was good for some people to have all that time, like to find themselves or whatever. But because it's like the world just kind of started again, and now it's kind of stopped again, but it's going to start again. And it's like they're not really taking into account how people have to adapt to it. So,
and everyone's talking about this new normal, but they're not saying what the new normal is. It's very hard to like adjust. Is it what is that?
I had quite a good experience in like the first lockdown, that whole finding yourself thing. But it was like I do a really practical subject at school, so that was quite a hard aspect, and going back into it with the new second phase of lockdown in Leeds is harder, because there's so much more to worry about going on buses and then being in a bubble with people. I think that's impacted a lot of people's mental health in the way that people worry naturally, and there is no one telling us this is the right way to go about it, unfortunately.
Everything's so like, none of the rules are very clear. There's lots of blurred areas, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And also now we've gotten a taste of freedom as such. No one really wants to go back to being locked down. I mean, obviously, like we understand the but I do think it will make going into a second proper lockdown, if we do it, a lot more difficult, because people have had that period of time away, they've taken what they wanted from it, now they're ready to go back to being able to be extroverted and spending time with their friends. And I don't think people want to lose that again. We've all come to value face-to-face communication so much more, and I think because we've done that, we don't really want to let it go now.
I think that's so true. Like even this whole, it's slowly being taken away from us, from like going to 30 people to like 6 people, and I feel like it makes you want to just like make sure you can see your friends for the last couple of times, or try and do this for the last couple of times, because we're just not ready yet.
I think part of me like wants another lockdown. Like I feel like going back into this new normal has been really hard to adjust to, and like it's kind of like, oh, I want to do this, but then you do it for 1 week, and the next week, oh, like you can't go to the restaurant with like friends from different households. Like it's like we'll give you something and then we'll take it away. So it's kind of just, part of me is like, let's just stop this, let's lock down for like 1 more month, and then after that we can go back to a normal, rather than having to keep going back and forth. It's quite like, I feel like for me it's hard for me to kind of focus on something, or to like look forward to something, because it's like you never know if it's going to be there or not.
do you think schools adequately supported students' mental health? Are there any changes you would like to see? Yeah, I don't think schools did anything really. And I think like now that it's like after lockdown, it's just like they're sending a ridiculous amount of work to people who are motivated at home, so it doesn't really make sense. And then also like the students who couldn't do their exams and now can't go to the university of their choice. It's like nothing really is being done to stop that. Like there's not really any leniency anywhere. So I think they've in fact, yeah, I think they've made it worse, to be honest.
When we went back, they didn't even mention anything. We didn't have we had a going back assembly thing on a video link, and it was all about getting ready to go into school, wearing face masks and all the precautions. It didn't say anything about if you need any help with your mental health, go here. Nothing like, we realise everything's been different for you during lockdown and it's going to be hard going back. It was all just, here's loads of information about going back to school.
Same in my old school, because I've moved schools over lockdown. In my new school, I think their response has been quite good, actually, because they've got up posters everywhere saying, come talk to us. But I know in my old school, not much has been happening. Like, I know people who've lost people, and I know people I've lost. And I'm happy that some schools are doing it, but there are schools that aren't doing anything, and we need to see a big change.
I go to a college, and they kind of did what Ella's school was doing. So like, we got told all this stuff about what was going to happen when we went in. I remember going into school on the first day with my mask on, and I entered, and they were all stood there and I was like, morning. And they were like, what are you doing? I was like, and they were like, okay, go downstairs. And there was nothing mentioned about support or anything until I went to the toilet, and there was a poster on the back of the toilet door. And I was a bit like, great, cool. But it was just so, it was a bit rubbish. And I'm in my second year, so I'm lucky enough to know the teachers, and at college as well, teachers are more tutory. You call them by their first name, you can talk to them. So I'm lucky that I have that stability with my tutors. But I know that that's just not the case, especially if they're first years as well.
We don't have posters. That's all I'm saying.
On the bathroom door.
We've got that on ours too. We've got stuff on our bathroom doors. We have it around the school, but I think the people mainly saw it on the bathroom doors.
Yeah, I think that's the case now, but even before lockdown and corona and everything, schools tried to promote all these different websites and things, but they didn't talk about speaking to people as people.
Yeah.
They didn't say, come speak to us, and if you do speak to us, we'll talk to you, but then we'll just ignore it after that,
Yeah, I feel like, just quickly getting back to the behind the toilet thing, I feel like they put the posters there because they know that when you're crying in the toilets, then then you'll seek help. But it's it needs to sort of be before that. It needs to sort of, you come to a new school or you go back to school, and then the first thing is welcome back, and then also in the same welcome packet should be things around mental health, things around just any sort of support. And I understand the issues surrounding safeguarding, because people are underage, so they do want to make sure that you're safe, but obviously that can breach the trust that teachers and pupils have. So it's a difficult one, because I can understand that they're trying to do what's best for you, but at the same time that's not always what's best for you. But following on from that, do you think attitudes towards mental health have changed?
Yeah. Yeah. They have over a long time, and they still need to be changed. But they're getting better, I think. Yeah. People can say I've got a problem, but everyone kind of sees certain diagnosable mental illnesses as, oh, that's a mental illness, you've got a big problem. I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know if I could be friends with you. I don't know if I could solve that problem. I don't know. There's still an unspoken thing going on, but it has improved. People can say I've got a problem.
That's true, because in the past it was more very keep quiet, tell no one. If this happens, you're just upset. It's a phase. You'll be fine. And the great thing is now, a positive is there are so many facilities we can go through. There are so many people we can talk to, and our friends, they're more understanding. People are more understanding when you have things, such as depression, OCD, and such on. There are so many things. We have a process for dyslexia and other just tons of things. And it's great to see that, because we hear a lot of the schools don't do this and schools don't do that, and people don't care about other people anymore. But there is a really big thing for mental health, which is just amazing, because so many people do go through mental health struggles, and it's great that we have so many facilities. But again, it can be better. Everything can be better. You might think something's amazing. Nothing's perfect. Everything can be improved. I've taken that line from Black Panther.
I think that what you're saying is true. I also think that it is a bit of a generational thing sometimes. Like, I think older generations will still more likely be like, oh, I just need a change in routine, I'll be fine, all that kind of stuff.
For me, I think there's like this whole culture of like, make sure you talk, everybody please talk up. But then I feel like a lot of it is just everyone wants to be like mental health conscious, like, yeah, like you can come talk to me. But it's whether you really can talk to them people. And also I think there's like a misconception that anyone can support anyone. First of all, before you support anyone, you need to be good in yourself, and you need to kind of know like the right things to say to really help people. So I feel like even people with the best intentions can make things worse because they just want to be able to be like mental health conscious.
So what do you think, what do you do to keep your mental health in check? So personally, my teddy, I give him a big old cuddle whenever I come back from school if I'm overwhelmed, and it works. You should definitely get a teddy bear. You should get a comfort item. But also taking a nap is something that helps.
I write, I paint on my wall. Oh, I'm a woman of many talents. Just anything to get like mental release as either distraction or just outward emotion.
I'm the same. I like do something to focus my mind in a different right, or I'll draw, or I'll go outside and put my earphones in and listen to music and try to remember all the words and hum along. And I know you shouldn't ignore those feelings. You should talk about them, which I do, but I also think sometimes it just helps me to just distract myself completely and talk, like I said, talking to friends and family and talking to myself sometimes.
Talking to yourself is really underrated. I'm sorry. I feel like I talk to myself so much, and it's so helpful because like whenever I feel like stressed or like anxious about stuff, I like have a conversation like with myself about it, and I like write it down and be like, dear Martha, and it really helps because it's like you're having a conversation with yourself, or like if you've like spoken to a friend about it, it can just help to just actually like say it out loud again. So yeah, I think that's really helpful. Like talking to yourself is key. I think exercise as well, like getting active, like and get the serotonin going, and just sort of doing creative stuff to keep your mind sort of busy, but also it's okay to sit in the feelings for a while, but like also to practice self-care.
The creative stuff as well, it's like a balance between distracting yourself and indulging in it, because you can express it in a different way. It's good, I think. I
try and just like feel it for like, I don't know, I give myself a time, maybe like 20 minutes. Sometimes when it's bad, maybe a day. I'm just like, I'm gonna feel it, I'm gonna feel this feeling, then after that I'm brand new. Like I'm gonna listen to some music, I'm gonna write everything down that I want to change, and I'm gonna come back brand new, and that just helps me. But I think the best thing I've learned is to literally just try and feel it for as long as you think you need to, because when you start trying to cover it up, like it's gonna come out some different way. So I think it's better to just control it.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to get involved, check out our social media handles. That'll be on screen now. Stay positive and join us next time.
Bye.